Heidi, can you hear me? Okay. They can see me now, so. One more minute. Okay, hello. Dobry večer, good evening, good morning. I'm Matt Thompson. I'm the Public Affairs Officer at the U.S. Consulate in Ekaterinburg, and welcome to English You Can Use. This is the English lesson where you can actually use the lessons and the stuff we teach you every day. So if you're interested in improving your English just a little bit tonight, I think we have a good program for you. First, we're going to talk about some Halloween idioms that are very helpful around this time of year. As you know, Halloween is coming up very soon on Saturday. I hope all of you are going to celebrate. But first, I'd like to say hello to everybody. I see Roman, Galina, Svetlana, who else? And I saw, I always read all the comments. Anatoly is asking us some questions. Anatoly, if you want to send me a private message through Vkontakte, direct message, or on Facebook, I can answer your question. But this is for English. I can't answer consular questions right now. So what else? And we have a special guest. She's in our virtual green room right now. My colleague Heidi Evans, and she is going to tell you a real ghost story from her childhood. So I think that will be really interesting to hear. So how's everybody doing today? It's cold, it's sunny. My Nasha Kranik, the guard, I talk to him every day, and he gave me a Russian saying that said, what was it? Moroz и солнце день чудесный. We don't really have anything like that in English, but I like it in Russian. So let's get started with our first little presentation here. I'm going to do my fancy buttons here. So these are really common phrases, but they might be a little confusing. I hope you'll learn something. You'll learn a little bit. So the first phrase here that's used a lot. In fact, there's a really famous book with the same name. It's called In Cold Blood. In cold blood. So it means to do something without emotion or caring. So the sentence I used there, they said he committed the murder in cold blood. And it's a very common phrase, so get to know that one, in cold blood. If you think someone does something really nasty or doesn't care, you can use in cold blood, no problem. I'm going to say hello to Viola in Minsk. Hello to Anastasia. I'm going to make sure you can see. Svetlana says it's a Pushkin quote. Morozy solnce den chudesny. I learn something every day here in Russia. All right, our second phrase here, over my dead body. And you'll hear a lot of people say that when they're really excited. And they say, you're not going to do that over my dead body. In fact, I'm sure there's lots of parents and grandparents who have said this over the years to their children. It means to refuse to let someone do something, or you don't want them to do it. So my example here is, you will go on a date with my sister over my dead body. That means it's not going to happen. You feel very strongly against it. So good phrase to know. I usually don't have those types of instances in my life, but if you do have that, now you know how to express yourself in English. And if you have a similar expression in Russian, put it in the comment section. I want to learn what it is too. So the third one we got, skeleton in the closet. Another very common phrase in English. It means that you have a secret to hide. You have something you don't want people to know. And the example here is, that politician has a lot of skeletons in his closet. That means he has something that he doesn't want other people to know. So you can, if you read this in a book, or if you see this in a movie, that's what they're saying. Skeletons in the closet means things to hide. Tolka через мой труп. Ah, okay. Great. And next one, to dig your own grave. This is pretty obvious. A grave, you probably know, and to dig is a kupatsa, kupat or kupat. So to do something that will cause you harm or problems. It means you're sabotaging yourself. So the example I have here on the screen is, he dug his own grave when he embarrassed his boss. Not something you want to do. You're digging your own grave. You're getting ready to put yourself in. So you use that one. If you put that in your writing, you use that. I don't know how you use it in everyday speech, but try to memorize these and just try to experiment with them, because they're pretty fun. And then lastly is kind of a fun one, and it's a good one to use instead of beautiful or gorgeous. You can call a person drop dead gorgeous. And that means they're really, really beautiful. So you see the sentence I have there on the screen. Everyone knew that she was drop dead gorgeous. And I suppose these two people, Natalie Portman and George Clooney, are drop dead gorgeous for a lot of people. Maybe not everybody. I think they're both nice looking people. So let's look through them again, just to review really quick. In cold blood, over my dead body, and try to say these out loud with me if you can, because that helps you practice. Skeleton in the closet. Closet, remember it's not closet, it's cloz with a Z. Dig your own grave. And drop dead gorgeous. All really easy to use, okay? Понятно? All right, поехали. Let's go on to the next one. So I'm gonna move over here. I came up with 5 or 6 ways that you can use these 1-word or 2-word phrases to say you understand somebody, or you confirm that you understood the information, or you understand the person. They're really super easy, and I think Americans use them a lot. So the first one here is gotcha. Now, the original probably intent of gotcha is like, I got you. I grabbed you and I'm holding you. I caught you. But another way to use gotcha is to understand somebody. So when I'm talking with my brothers and sisters, they say it all the time when I say, It's really cold here. It's -20 and we have to put on our winter hats and coats all the time. And they'll say, ah, gotcha. Of course, they live in California, so they don't really get me, but they always say gotcha. So if you see this in a movie, that's what they're saying. It means got you, but it's if you put it together, gotcha. So good one to know. Next one. Let's see. Got my next one here. I feel you. No, it doesn't literally mean I'm feeling you, like touching you. It means I'm feeling you. I'm feeling your pain or I'm feeling your happiness. You hear this all the time, especially with younger people. If I say, today was just a great day, I'm glad you're here, and they'll say, I feel you. I feel you. It makes someone feel good, makes them feel like you've listened to them. So go ahead and use that in informal settings. I wouldn't use this with your boss if you're speaking English. If your boss, it's probably a little more informal, but it's a nice one to know. All right, let's go on. An even more informal response is word. This is a lot of slang for young people, or at least, I don't know, people who are 40 and under. I consider myself still young. I guess I'm 43, so maybe I'm over. So if you're listening to somebody and they say something that you think is really profound or really true, like that person's a jerk, you could say word. Means я согласен, я понял. It's a really easy one. Again, слово, but it means more than that. All right, let's go with the next one. This is a new one for me, but it's very simple. Heard. Now, you probably know heard is the past tense of to hear. Я слышал. But you can say it to confirm that you understand the perspective of the person. And I just heard this in the summer where I was watching a video with the famous Matthew McConaughey, and he's laying back in his chair, and someone said something deep, and he said, heard, heard. And I thought, that's an unusual way to answer, but it makes sense. So I think it's more of a trend now to say heard. You can use it if you want. You may not be able to say it as cool as Matthew McConaughey, though. Next one. This has like a military background. I wish I could tell you all the history, but the word is Roger. And Roger is the name of a person. But when people are talking on radios, usually military or people who don't want to use a lot of words, the word Roger or Roger that means you understood and you heard what they said. Does that make sense? So I have one colleague in particular, when I write him a text, he always says, Roger that. And I always laugh. I think it's nice. So if you want to be funny and use Roger. And then the last one, if you want to go really, really big slang, you could say true dat. And that's true that. But if you just take off some of the pronunciation, true dat would be, yep, I agree with you. I hear you. Yep, I agree. So those are some really useful phrases that you can use in everyday speech mostly with your friends. And I hope you're able to meet friends who speak English all across the world, and you can throw this in and their eyes will get amazed if you say true dat. So let's move to our next segment, and there's Heidi. You there? I think we can hear you.
I'm on the air.
All right. Well, I'll give her a short introduction. Heidi Evans is the political officer at the U.S. Consulate here in Yekaterinburg. She's been here about a year and is originally from Alabama, I believe, but you lived overseas for some of your childhood. And but my first question was, how big is Halloween like it ranks on the holidays for you?
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for having me on the program tonight. It's funny. I joined the United States Diplomatic Service almost 20 years ago, And my first overseas assignment was in Brazil. And Brazil is a place that doesn't really have seasons because we lived in Sao Paulo, just south of the Tropic of Capricorn, and it was hot most of the year. So there was no fall. There was winter was maybe it got down to 10 degrees centigrade, and all these Brazilians would bring out their fur coats.
Hmm.
And after I had lived in Brazil for about 9 months, I realized I had arrived in December and it was getting to be fall in the United States, which is summer in Brazil. And it occurred to me that the season I really missed the most of all of them in the United States was Halloween. That, of course, I loved celebrating Thanksgiving with my family in the United States, but as long as you pull Americans together, we celebrate Thanksgiving no matter where we are. I missed celebrating Christmas with my family, but many countries around the world celebrate Christmas. But Halloween at that time was something unique to the United States. I think it's grown in popularity since then, but I so missed the tradition of the world stopping on October the 31st, like it would in the US, and all the school kids getting dressed up to go to school in their costumes for the day, and the trick or treating that would take place in towns across America, and all the Halloween candy that Americans manufacture, chocolate and caramel and sweets and lots of other things. I would honestly say that Halloween is probably one of my most missed holidays from home.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. There's something special about maybe it's the time of year, but it's just a fun holiday for everybody, not just kids. Although when I was a kid, I loved the candy. Um, I hope it's okay if you have a Halloween question for me or Heidi. Write it in the comments, and we'll try to answer it before the end of this segment. Okay? But while we're waiting for questions, um, I know you mentioned the other day. You said, "Yeah, I have a ghost story to tell, and it has to do with my house." And so when I heard that, I said, "You have to share it with the rest of us." And so how does it go? I'm not really a believer in ghosts, but I kind of like to hear ghost stories for some reason.
Well, I'm like you, Matt. I don't know that I believe in ghosts, but I'm smart enough not to deny them because I figure if they are true, they're going to get really mad at me if I deny their existence. So I really didn't have much of an opinion on ghosts growing up. I was a kid who was always afraid. I didn't like the scary movies. I never went to haunted houses. Um, but my hometown in Alabama is what most Russians would call a village, 25,000 people. In Alabama, that's a pretty large town. Um, the whole town goes completely out for Halloween. You grow up knowing the same people, so you get dressed up, you trick or treat. My city in Alabama, the town name is Athens, was the site of an extremely bloody battle during the American Civil War in
Hmm.
1862. Interestingly enough, the Union Army, the army from the northern United States, came and occupied my hometown, and the Union Army was led by a Russian Cossack by the name of, in English, John Basil Turchin. In Russian, he was Ivan Vasilievich Turchininov. And he led the Union Army into Athens, Alabama in 1862. And there was a horrible battle there. Because of that, my hometown is filled with ghost stories from the Civil War, ghost stories from the university. My one of my teachers growing up had an antebellum, which is what we call a building that preceded the American Civil War, so 1820s, 1830s, 1840s, and 50s. She lived in an antebellum home about a street away from me that was used as a hospital for soldiers during the Civil War. And she said at night you could hear the ghost of a Civil War soldier leading his horse through the hallway. You would hear two sets of footsteps, a horse and a person, as they walked up and down the stairs at night. I grew up with a kid who lived another block away whose house was also supposedly haunted. They always talked about doors opening and closing in the middle of the night. So this was the kind of environment I grew up with. There were probably 5 or 6 well-known ghost stories from my hometown. And like Matt, I didn't have much of an opinion on the matter until I experienced something one day myself. My parents lived in the house of the founder of the city. So it was built in 1826, almost 200 years ago. Um, the house had been owned by the founder of the city, by many families since then. People had died there. It had seen a lot of history. And this incident happened about 25 years ago. My mother and I, one day, were upstairs in her bedroom, and we had both laid down on her bed to take a nap. There was no one else in the house. It was in the middle of the daytime, and we were both sound asleep, completely asleep. We both woke up very suddenly and looked at each other. And my mother said, "Did you feel that?" And I looked at her and I said, "Yes, I did. What did you feel?" And we both had the same instant sensation, and it was strong enough it woke us both up out of a deep slumber. If you have a pet, a dog or a cat, you know what it feels like when they jump on the bed and the whole bed kind of leans toward the front. Well,
Yeah.
my mother and I were both asleep on the bed when suddenly the bed shifted completely, like someone had sat down on the end of it. And when we
Whoa.
both looked at each other, um, we had a dog and a cat. Neither one of them were in there. There was no one else in the house. Um, it's never something I've ever been able to describe. And even as I tell the story now, I realize it sounds ridiculous. But to have had such a strong sensation that it wakes you up out of a deep sleep and to have someone lying next to you that verifies they had the exact same experience is something neither one of us could deny.
Wow. That is pretty. That's pretty convincing. Wow. If you both independently felt it, and there was no reason for you to, you know, to I don't know, lie about it. I mean, that's just, were you scared, or did you just go about and say that was weird and we're forgot about it, or?
No, it it was definitely a scary moment. We both got up, looked under the bed, made sure the dog nor the cat were there. I even think we walked around the house. My mother went one way and I went another. It was a large house that had three stairways, including one that went outside. And so we quickly went around the house to make sure nobody was there. No one was, but it was just so bizarre that we both had the same sensation at the same exact time, and both of us having been asleep. Like I said, I don't know that I believe in ghosts, but I know better than to deny them because I really do believe one sat on our bed that day.
Wow. Well, that's a great story. We have a couple of comments you can probably see. It was a cool story and frightening. Yeah, I would be a little frightened after that. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. We had one question come in. If you have a question, please let us know. Let's keep it to Halloween. We don't need to get into a lot of other subjects. But it said, Heidi, can you tell me, please, what is your favorite horror film? Do you like watching it during the Halloween?
I honestly, as I said, I'm not a big fan of horror movies except during Halloween. And as I've gotten older, I've enjoyed horror movies more and more. I honestly like the suspenseful movies, the ones that are full of intrigue and fright versus those that are, as we would say in English, gory or bloody
Yeah.
or make believe. I think for my money, it is hard to beat the original Halloween movie, which came out in 1978, I believe, with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
And in the movie, if you haven't seen it, she lives every American teenage girl's nightmare. American teenagers, often special girls, find themselves babysitting for other children to make money.
Yeah.
And so at some point in every American girl's life, we babysat for somebody. And in this particular story, Jamie Lee Curtis is babysitting for a family the night on Halloween when a serial killer escapes from the mental home, and he then comes to seek revenge on those that did him wrong. And the movie is 2 hours of absolute fear about this girl who locks herself in the house with her children, and she's staring out the front door and she doesn't know what's on the other side, and she doesn't want to open the window because he may be there. It's absolutely a bone chilling, there's another good English phrase for you, horrifying experience. I will add that at least three other Halloween movies were made after that one, as well as a couple of what we call reboots, where they just basically did the whole thing over. So there are probably 6 or 7 Halloween movies in all. Most of them were pretty ridiculous. But that first one, the 1978 version, is still one of my scariest movies of all time.
I don't think I've seen it for a long time, but coincidentally, wasn't it Jamie Lee Curtis's mom was in the famous Psycho, was by Alfred Hitchcock, which was quite scary for its time. It is a good movie. We got a couple of more questions here. Heidi, didn't you get a phobia, or weren't you afraid of old houses when that happened? Did you guys move after that, or no? You just kept sleeping there. I don't know if I could. That's from Alexander. Alexander asked that.
Uh, yeah. Hi, Alexander. We didn't move. My parents lived there because my father worked at the local university, and the home belonged to the university, and it was a historic home. And when we moved into it, we knew that was part of the legacy. As I
Ah.
said, I grew up in a town that was filled with ghost stories. The university itself has 3 ghosts that it claims and talks about pretty frequently. So we knew that was the legacy of the home. You know, I think we just dealt with it. I will tell another story of a friend of mine who still lives in my hometown. And she lived in a house, it's very unfortunate, but I'll mention it, where the previous owner of the house had killed herself. Um, the ghost of the house of this woman has never bothered my friend unless my friend has wanted to redecorate the home. And every time my friend tries to replace a light fixture or paint a wall or put in new windows, things happen around the house. Things get misplaced, or the light fixtures suddenly stop working, or the water won't turn off. The spirit makes itself known that she doesn't like the changes to the house. And as soon as my friend changes things back, things are fine. And so now she jokes that anytime she wants to redecorate a room, she goes into a room and paints different colors to see if something happens and if the ghost speaks to her. So, growing up in a town like this where there were lots of ghosts and ghost stories, some of which you believe, some of which it's impossible, I think you just realize that's part of the character of the town.
Next question is about how do you celebrate Halloween while you're outside the USA? Good question.
And Matt can speak to this too. I've been fortunate in that this is my 5th overseas assignment, and every place where I've ever served overseas, the embassy or the consulate in which we've worked has put together a party for Halloween, including here in Yekaterinburg. Our Russian
Hmm.
colleagues love to celebrate Halloween. Many
Hmm.
of them studied in the United States or worked in the United States, and they've brought this tradition home and are sharing it with their children now. And so at the consulate, we typically have a big Halloween party. And I think you find that wherever you are, whether you work in a diplomatic mission or you are studying or living overseas, American communities get together to celebrate Halloween like they do Thanksgiving or Christmas or other holidays.
Hmm.
It's just one of those things that we uniquely share, especially because, for the most part, everyone celebrates Halloween. It's not a religious holiday, it doesn't have any religious significance, or it does for some people, but not everybody. But everybody of every background, every ethnicity, every social class, everyone celebrates Halloween in their own way. And so it's really something that unites Americans wherever we are in the world.
Yeah. I forgot. I should have gone out and brought my big bag of candy corn, which you can't find in Russia. Candy corn, if you don't know what I'm talking about, is these little pieces of candy that are sweet like honey, or maybe sweeter than honey. And they look like little pieces off the corn, the kernels of corn, and they're orange, yellow, and white. They're really, really tasty. And so we ordered 2 big bags this year, and we have them. So we're not homesick. And then lastly, I think we can both answer this. Has the celebration of Halloween changed from the time you were a child till now? And I definitely can say, I think you and me probably had the traditional experience of your parents let you go out in your neighborhood, you get dressed up and you go with some friends. Maybe your mom or dad escort you around the neighborhood, and you go up to the people you don't know, or some you know and some you don't know, and you say trick or treat, and they give you a couple pieces of candy. If you're super lucky, they have the big full candy bars, but that's really hard to find. And you come back at the end of the night after maybe an hour or two, and you have this big, huge sack of candy. You try to eat it. Your mom and dad say no. But now I think it's changed a little bit. What do you think?
I don't, in some ways, maybe Halloween has changed because I think there are, back when Matt and I grew up, it was the old innocent days. And I think there's some security concerns now with who are you getting the candy from? And
Yeah.
especially in the time of COVID, a lot of towns are actually canceling Halloween. What I was going to comment on is, yeah, Halloween has changed, but I think even more so, Halloween changes with the age that you are. As a young
Yeah.
child, like Matt said, you get dressed up, you hold your mommy and daddy's hand, you sweetly go to your neighbors, you knock, you say trick or treat, they give you candy, and you walk away. And then you get to be the middle school age years where you're 10, you're 11, you're 12 years old. And all of a sudden, it's too cool. You're too cool to get dressed up in a costume and go ask people for candy. It's much more fun to spend your Halloween scaring the kids who are out to get the candy. And so then you become the terrorized, become the terrorizers. And that becomes the fun for your teenage years. In my small town growing up, there was a man who owned, in addition to his family car, he owned a hearse. A hearse is the vehicle that carries the coffin of a dead person to the funeral. And he just had it because he loved Halloween. He bought it at a cheap sale. And he used to drive around my hometown and load up all the kids in the hearse and then drive us around all night. And sometimes there'd be a coffin in the back with someone who was alive and hiding in there, ready to jump out and scare everyone, and sometimes not. But to me, Halloween changes according to your age. Now that I'm a parent and I have a young child who trick or treats himself, I've come back to my innocent time and I've enjoyed watching him experiment with different types of candy bars that I grew up with that he's never had before. Like Matt, we ordered a bag of candy corn as well, because those are the things we miss most. And I look forward to being a parent and watching Halloween through his eyes now.
Yeah, me too. Now that our daughter's coming of age and now understands it, it's nice to experience it again. Well, I think we're at the end of our 7:30, at our end of our program. Thank you for your comments and questions, everybody. You got some comments about the rug in the back. People like that in your background. Tatiana says thank you. Alexander calls you Heidi the Fearless. Word. That is exactly the way you use that word. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you so much, Heidi, for sharing your story, and we hope you can join us again in the future, maybe for another holiday.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, everybody. Happy Halloween.
All right. All right, everybody, that's our lesson for this evening. Thank you again. If you liked what you saw and you think other people would like it as well, subscribe on YouTube or on our page of Contact You or Facebook, and share this with your friends. I want to make this as good as possible. This lesson as useful as possible for you. So please just send me a note and tell me what you like or you don't like, and we'll continue to do it. So thank you again, and remember, be kind and keep an open mind. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.